Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Buckle up. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole earth will be converted into a huge brain. We shall be able to communicate with one another instantly, irrespective of distance. Nikola Tesla. Today's guest is someone I have had the gift of meeting recently from a podcast guest we love, Brian View, episode 845 of the Culture Matters podcast. They connected me to someone that's not just a is not a technologist necessarily or a software guy or a programming person, but an entrepreneur with tremendous success for decades in the mortgage industry that's come into an awareness around the concept and the ways to think about AI and the technology and our culture and how that's being impacted. Someone that works with very established high level organizations and leadership in actually improving them. We'll get into in and around their organizations and the conversation of AI, someone that has an opinion even on how we should even be talking about it and thinking about it. And without further ado, Scott Schang, thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast and bringing this conversation, this very necessary conversation, to our audience. It's very I'm great. I'm greatly excited and honored for this time together.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. When Brian introduced us, and we jumped on a call instantly, like there was a great connection. I loved our conversation. And then you're like, hey, can we record this conversation? I'm like, sure, let's do this. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
The first things first, so the audience can even understand you. You came from the mortgage industry,
Yeah.
correct? And a couple of years ago, you actually jumped fully into the AI renaissance, as you call it. Can you elaborate on that part, that piece of the story?
Sure, where there's the jump and then there's the AI renaissance that gets a little deeper. So yeah, my most recent endeavor was I was in the mortgage industry for 22 years. And I kind of where most people know me in the mortgage industry is after the crash in '07, I learned WordPress and I built a consumer education website blog that ended up generating at its peak probably 25, 30,000 unique visitors a month. And all of my business was inbound, high trust from just creating a safe space for consumers to ask questions and understand what went wrong. Quite frankly, it
Wow.
was the entire
Uh-huh.
platform was designed to give people a second opinion when things didn't go perfectly the first time.
Do you remember the beginnings of what you saw at that time that led you to go? You're saying 25 to 30,000 people visited a month to a blog. This is like in what year? 2006, 7, 8, something like that?
No, well, I saw I saw the crash coming in '07. Well, it was fourth quarter of '07 when most of us saw it in the mortgage industry. So that's when I learned WordPress. Um, and really it was about, it was kind of there was a lot of education around what went wrong. But I really focused on first-time home buyers and state assistance programs, the ones that were left, and those types of things. So I've always tried to empower those people who don't always feel empowered, like they don't feel like they have um, all of the easy choices, and like they want to be homeowners, they don't have enough money. And then I started to see over and over again that um, there were certain things that call center loan officers didn't know how to deal with, and student loans was a big one. In 2009, I started writing about how to buy after bankruptcy, foreclosure, and short sale. And by about 2012 and 13, that was generating about 10 to 15,000 visitors a month. And I would help people in 2008 and 2009 and 2010 that came back to me and bought 3 to 5 years later.
Whoa.
So I've kind of always been I'm really a delayed reward kind of person, and I like to empower people with um, the knowledge to make better and more informed decisions when they need to.
It sounds like you were very ahead of the times in that time. Do you feel as ahead now in this context of
I
the?
think I'm a little bit further ahead right now because I think everybody is looking at AI through a technological lens, and I think that there is a much more profound paradigm shift that's happening that goes so far beyond rewriting an email or Claude Code or Cowork or Claude Bot or OpenClaw, whatever the heck it's called. Um, there is a there is a far more profound and impactful shift, and that's the Renaissance that you and I had talked about. And well, if you're ready, let me go on my Renaissance
Yeah,
riff.
well, yeah, I'd love to understand that more deeply.
Okay, so what we consider to be culture today, science, art, education, even politics, most of that was formed out of the Renaissance in the mid 16th century. And that came about from for a couple of different reasons. The first reason was the money at the time. The Medici family was pulling together all of these thought leaders and these thinkers from different disciplines, architects and philosophers and thought leaders into like Florence area. And so you had a real cross-pollination of ideas and sort of this emergence of what I think is best described as Jungian's concept of the collective unconscious. And so all of this energy and creativity got was contributed to this environment and this space where innovation and creativity was born out of the intersection of completely unrelated disciplines and ideas. The second part of that is there was a resurgence of ancient knowledge at that time. There was a big resurgence into Hermeticism and Greek philosophy at that time. That so these artists and thought leaders started looking at um, very foundational ideas about how to think about the world. Now, the reason this happened was because the world was coming out of the Dark Ages, and the Dark Ages were oppressive, they were dismal, they left so many people feeling oppressed and left behind. And so there was all of this bottled up um, creativity, innovation, intellectual um, energy that was just like there were centuries where you could be killed because of your ideas.
Wow.
And so because of that, when that let's call that seal was pulled off of that, all of that bottled up oppression, then you had this explosion of ideas and creativity. So fast forward, I call this the new Renaissance, and in all of my programs that I do with Perry Marshall and the other things that I do, um, Renaissance is actually RENAI. So I capitalize the AI in the word Renaissance because I believe that the internet is the information dark ages. Let me explain that. So the technology was necessary for humanity to learn how to upload civilization's knowledge and information into the cloud. So now we can collect all of our ideas and our thoughts and our books into this cloud type of environment. And it was great because it, to some extent, initially it democratized access to certain types of information. But what happened, as with all tyrannies or with all power structures, they always lean towards tyranny. At some point, all power structures will lean towards tyranny. And that tyranny is called Google. And what happened with Google is because they weren't necessarily first mover advantage, but they were the first to simplify the process. They made it the easiest to access information. Unfortunately, what they also made it easy for is for people to figure out how to get their information in front of people. So we had this whole rise of thought leaders and gurus and influencers and things like that that understood how the internet worked and the algorithms worked and figured out how to speak to the masses. Quite frankly, everything we know about everything, like there are no new ideas. Bottom line, Solomon said that correctly. There are only new perceptions or new perspectives on old ideas. So you have an internet that's bringing up, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Like that's where Tony Robbins came from. Like he just repurposed some of those concepts. And all of those concepts come from older ideas. But what ended up happening is it trained society to believe that the answer is outside of us.
Mm,
So when I have a question, I which is now a verb, which is interesting. I Google it, right? And I type it into Google and I get a list. The librarian brings me back a list of all of the people I should listen to that purport to understand my problem better than I do, and they have a solution. All I have to do is pay $99 a month to subscribe to their whatever, right? And and so I think there have been several generations now, and you see sort of there's always conversations of the decay of communication, and we live in a meme and hashtag society right now, right? Where we have a couple of generations that um, your your literacy uh, sort of class cringe uh, at the way that kids communicate, right?
mm,
Like they don't communicate well because everything is like acronyms and symbols and hashtags and all of these things. And there's all of that question about what is this doing to our youth and all of that.
mm,
And these are byproducts of the ability to create um, mass conformity very quickly and very easy. So um, the ability to the ability to uh, oh, what's the word that I'm trying to use? Consensus. The ability to create consensus was simplified from the internet. And so that's why we see all of these communities where groups of people can go and feel heard and say, oh, I'm part of this group now. And I think you see that. I think you see one of the results of that in politics. Right. So you see politics now, there's so much us against them because you can create consensus around an idea so easily now with the internet that it's easy to get mass amounts of people to say, "Oh, I'm like this," and agree to an idea, which forms these little pockets of reality that have power and they have momentum. So this is what I call this is what I call a societal dark ages. I think communication was um, Communication has become super manipulated. I think that behavior was changed and adjusted, and these are very, very broad statements because the internet is super empowering in a lot of ways. But for the masses seeking confirmation, it became very easy for them to find consensus around an idea or agree to ideas that were out there. Independent thinkers, it was liberating. It is liberating and it continues to be liberating. Almost all of civilization's documented history now exists in this cloud that we have access to. So a lot of it is really about intent. So let me fast forward this a little bit. I think, brings back sovereignty to independent thinkers. Like, I think that it's a mirror for our own ability to communicate concisely our ideas. So, what I do and what I've been doing is I try to teach people how to think about how they think about AI because I believe that as a mirror to your highest genius, your highest inner self, your deepest, most, your instinct and your intuition, right? Prior to AI, if we had an intuition, we put it on the internet, and all we would get is confirmation or not confirmation about our instinct. But if you've ever taken an idea and put it into AI and it reflects it back to you free of bias and assumption. So here's another thing that AI is,
Mm,
and you can
mm.
stop me anytime or else
Keep going. No, no,
I'm
I
going to
want to
keep going.
I want to listen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So,
think the
so
audience
there,
should listen.
there's a concept called the Einstellung effect. And the Einstellung effect describes a condition where innovation suffers at the expense of past successes. So, really, what that means is that when we go into a decision, our brain says, all right, I mean, remind me to go into this in a second about neurological processes. But essentially, when an idea is introduced into our brain, the first thing we do is we say, have I ever encountered that before? Right? So we look into the past. So the past is a fabrication of what we believe to have been true under those conditions when we created the memory. It doesn't mean that it's true, it's just our perception of what happened. So that campaign didn't work. Oh, I tried direct mail. It doesn't work, right? To make this a business analogy. Or I one time I one time tried to uh, talk in front of the classroom and they laughed at me, so I'm not good at public speaking. So we carry all of these assumptions and biases because we had these past experiences. So those past experiences also formulate a lens through which we perceive potential, right? So it creates basically like it creates a constrictions or restrictions around how we perceive potential because we already know how it's going to turn out. I already know that doesn't work. I already know that does work, which in business we're finding out now a lot of things that we thought always worked aren't working anymore. And part of that reason, it's not because what you're doing doesn't work, it's because consumer behavior and perception is being shifted and being changed because of consumer empowerment, because they have more options and easier access to more options. So in the present, with Einstellung effect, we are crippled by our own biases and our own assumptions. However, you put that into AI, so that's our neural processing, right? That's how our brain works. That's just how our brain works. Um, the ideas, the intuition, I tend to go more metaphysical and spiritual with it. I think that our ideas and our thoughts come from outside of us. I don't think that they're generated from inside of us. I think ideas come from potentially it's this collective unconscious, it's God, it's source, it's whatever. We all wake up with this aha moment and we have no idea where it came from, but it was totally appropriate and it was exactly what we needed when we needed it, right? And there's certain religions, they call that God meets you where you're at, right? And it's like wherever you're at, this source is there protecting you. So AI is a neural network. It is so when we say somebody is intelligent, say, everybody knows Jay is super intelligent. What we're really saying is Jay holds a lot of information, and when fed an idea, he can make connections that don't seem obvious between all of those ideas and information. Right. And so we go, wow, that's a really intelligent person. They feel like they're coming up with all of these new ideas, but really what you're doing is you're retaining a lot of information and you're able to identify patterns in potentially unrelated or superficially observably unrelated ideas, and you're able to create patterns and connections and say, oh, this is like this, which means here's a new perspective on an old idea, right?
Mm.
So AI contains as much of civilization's knowledge and information that we've ever created, that we've ever converted into digital. So that is its capacity. Now, it does not have intuition. It does not have bias. It does not have assumption. People that say, oh, AI is biased because you've got all of those progressive developers in Silicon Valley and they're putting their ideas into there. I would argue that because it has so much information, it has every possible perspective on every possible concept that was ever uploaded into the internet. So I think that dilutes the any bias. I think we are the single most biased factor in this entire equation because we carry all of this baggage about how things are.
Can I ask I want to clarify something, make sure I'm following
Yeah.
your addition here. Does the internet, I wrote this down as a question. Does the internet confirm our stories versus AI help us write us the story or a story?
So I
I'm
think
trying to conceptualize the dark age as
my
like a
my my ex-
projection versus
my
an,
experience is that the internet is noise. So you put signal out there, and all you get from the internet is noise. All you get is here's the way, here's how you should think about it. Here's how you should think about it. Here's what you need to buy to solve that problem. And the internet has become very, very good at the psychology of persuasion. So every copywriter learned the power of persuasion, right? So Robert Cialdini's influence, right? Everything is about influence. That's why they call them influencers. It's all about persuasion. It's all about making them think that you had the idea to agree with their solution. This is deep psychology, and this is all on purpose. This is the foundation of modern copywriting, which is
Hmm.
influence and persuasion, right? So the internet is noise because at the end of the day, how we make choices is we have a thought or an idea, we collect information, but at the end of the day, it's our internal intuition or discernment that determines which signals we're paying attention to um, that we agree with that I'm going to move forward with this idea or this thought process. So that's what the internet is. The internet is way too many options. It's noise. There's so many options, it's all noise. And what makes it more confusing is that it's rarely objective. It's almost always coming from an expert, right? And there are a billion experts on every single topic. AI does not presume to be an expert in anything. It's just a repository for information. The synapse that is created that accesses all of that information and creates patterns, identifies patterns in relationships, is only created when we put input into AI, right? There are no keywords. There is no ranking. There is no website ranking. There are no algorithmic manipulations that occur to produce signal coming back to us as a neural network. So, we have X zip drive or flash drives for our computer as external memory. I think AI is our external neural network. It literally contains all of civilization's information, and it has the ability to find relationships and create patterns and return perspectives that we are incapable of doing by doing a Google search. So it's pure signal because I believe it's a mirror for your intent. So this
Can
is,
you elaborate on that? Mirror for your intent.
yeah. So it is your ability to concisely communicate your ideas. And this is where I think the pendulum is shifting from generations of kids that speak in hashtags and memes and acronyms to the new generations of kids are going to realize that if they can concisely communicate their ideas, you could build a $1 billion business in less than a week using AI, and it's been done.
When you can you elaborate on mirror for your intent? Meaning,
Yeah,
because yeah. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I would say overwhelmingly, myself included, when AI came out, I used it like Google. And I think most people still do. They type in a question. Can you tell me about this? It's called single shot prompting, right? You ask it a question and it gives you back um, a really interesting synopsis of what you're looking at based on whatever model you're using and how it organizes the output. But I think that AI is an Socratic amplifier. And what I mean by that is it's not an answer machine. It's an environment that allows us to ask better questions. So Socrates is famous for saying, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing, right? And really that what that means is that there is never an answer, there is only consensus, right? You settle on something, and answers are just when you got tired of asking questions. Because you know this from all of these interviews, like the answer is there are better questions. And you don't know what that question is until you reflect on what the feedback was, the feedback loops for what you put in there. So AI is a brainstorming assistant, as a co-creator and a co-innovator and a collaborator on your own ideas,
Mm.
is an absolute amplifier of asking better questions. And what I've recognized and what I've helped unlock in many, many other people is that you're asking the wrong questions. Like, I think, okay, this is a little bit of a sidebar. Tell me if this goes off too far. I think that when most people ask questions, they're only asking for confirmation about what they already believe to be true. I think most people don't actually want to be challenged, because if you ask the right questions, you'll realize that you're asking the wrong question. So here's a perfect example. Boy, my business would do so much better if I just had more leads, right? How do I get more leads? How many times have you heard that? Well,
Every time.
yes, I would argue that it has nothing to do with leads. It has to do with a million other things. First of all, I think most people have more business than they can handle in their existing database. What they have is they have a poor stewardship of their client or their customer base, and they're treating them as transactions and not relationships. So it's not that you need more leads. It's that you're not getting as much uh, value out of the relationships that you created from the leads that you have. So that's one example, right? So that's a super easy example. Um, Referrals, retention, lifetime value are all functions of stewardship. Leads are sales and marketing. But once you get a lead in the door, now you have to protect that relationship. And then you have to continue to provide value in order to get, and that's going to be your highest, that's going to be your highest margin revenue you will ever get because the money was already spent to create the relationship. But so many people don't. So that's an example of, I think most people are asking the wrong questions. And I think right now, that Tesla, I've never heard that Tesla quote, and it's absolutely brilliant. Like right now, I think that we should be challenging everything that we believe to be true. And you can do that by challenging your ideas with AI. So, see, Jay,
Interesting.
when I have a crazy idea and I bring it to you, here's the normal. So, this is one of the ways that I explain AI. I think that um, at its highest and best, it removes ideation latency. And what that means is that when we have a good idea, if I have a good idea, like the more profound and impactful the idea, um, the faster I start to doubt myself, right? Because I'm like, oh, nobody's ever going to think that's good. Like, I looked on Google, nobody's talking about what I'm talking about. Like, maybe it's because it's not good. And then maybe I'll get the courage to ask you. And you're planning your next podcast, and you're like, but you respect me, we're friends. And you go, oh, yeah, Scott, that's a pretty good idea. You should run with it. Like, all right, what am I going to do with that? That does nothing for me. Like, I still have all of this doubt and this questions. So I have to work on that idea and put in all of this effort into this idea in order for it to have enough momentum for me to have the confidence to execute, to get the feedback loops to determine whether that was a good idea or not. Right. That's the normal process of ideation. Ideation
Mm.
execution is a journey. Like, it's a long and a hard journey. With I can go from ideation to execution in minutes or hours, like instant confirmation. I can instantly simulate, pick apart, challenge, revolve my idea not only 360 degrees, but in multiple dimensions of reality to get different perspectives to see, to evolve my idea to the point where I have enough momentum and confidence to execute. Oh, I'm going to do that. And now, if I can concisely communicate my idea to the AI, it will give me step by step instructions. Or if it's an app or a software, it'll build the app right there, like out of the ethers. And it'll build you a fully functional interactive application or process or workflow. So now my superpower becomes my ability to concisely communicate my ideas.
Ha- What do you, what do you, what's the conversation look like to someone that believes that they have AI fatigue?
You might be using it wrong.
Yeah, I'd like your advice on that.
Well, no,
Like,
no, no, no. I take that back. There is no wrong way. I don't believe in wrong. I believe that you're not expanding your idea of what this technology is and what it can do. It literally gives you access to your own highest and most developed intellect. And if you've never, most people don't have the opportunity to exercise their intellect, right? Because we live in these confined spaces where we think we have to control everything or conform to other people's ideas or thoughts about things. Um, very few people sit around and philosophize about ideas. AI allows you to do that. So if you're using it as a productivity tool, if you're using it as software, if you think that it's a tool to help you write emails or reduce whatever, some other thing, some productivity thing, and that's an old thought paradigm.
Mm.
Right? If your audience is business owners, we have all these old thought paradigms about how we're supposed to do business, right? I'm supposed to write good copy. I'm supposed to get exposure. I'm supposed to go out there and put it out there on Meta and on Google and on all these places. And then when it comes in, I put it into a CRM. Then I put them on a 12-month drip. If they don't buy from me, a canned drip that isn't interacting, that isn't personalized, doesn't resonate with the person, right?
But-
So what I want you to, what I want people, what I want to challenge people with is I want to challenge you with, are you, how much effort is required by your consumer or your client to understand what you do and how you can help them?
In your experience and breadth of all the thought, the leaders in thought are in and around this subject, because you live in you're, if I understand correctly, you're in between academia and business integration as this technology evolves or integrates into our system. So from all the people you're relating to in the various communities, are there core values associated more so with that are more valuable with how to think about how to think about thinking about
Yeah,
AI or behaviorally? Like, are there
yeah, and I think this is biblical. I mean, I think it's humility as opposed to hubris. I think so many people go through the world with this hubris that they understand how everything works. And I think if you approach this technology with some humility and you ask it to help you, to challenge you and help, and what am I not asking is one of the most powerful prompts you could ever put into AI. What am I missing? What am I not thinking? What questions am I not asking that I should be? Um,
is someone, or what's your take on how likely someone is or isn't willing to do that to either a friend, a stranger, a group, or just their AI? Is
I don't think it's, I don't think it's, listen, a lot of people have really good networks and they have trusted circles of trust, but those people still have their own lives and they have their own biases and they have their own experiences and opinions. It is a practice that is good to have people to bounce stuff off of, but AI is literally all of the greatest thinkers in the existence of documented humanity that can give you feedback on your ideas. Like without motive or motivation or anything like that. And then you get more precision around your ideas because listen, Jay, if you bring me a crazy idea, I've got to be in the right mindset. I got to be in the right space to really be present with you in your idea in order to give you valuable feedback, right? If I'm busy or if I'm doing something or my dog just knocked over soda on the rug or something, like I'm not present and I'm not able to really be there with you and really try to understand your idea and give you valuable feedback. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. I didn't do anything wrong, just the circumstances around the time that so you asking me requires effort from me to be present, to provide you with uh, the best feedback loop to help you develop your idea, right? And that's anytime we go to humans, that's what we are getting. So this goes back to effort versus experience. When I say think about everything differently, I'm seeing most businesses right now saying, I need to integrate AI into my business. It's the next big thing. I need to automate stuff. I need to do all of these things, but you're still thinking about accelerating or amplifying the things you've always done. How often, you and anybody who's listening to this, how often now, instead of Googling something, that you'll go to AI and ask it about if I should buy something or if I can compare a product or something like that. So I think when I said, are you expecting your consumer, your client to put in effort or have an experience of recognizing that what you offer is exactly what they're looking for? Here's effort. Effort is they have to read your ad. The next effort is they have to click on it. Then we send them to a sales page or a landing page, right? So it requires effort for them to read that landing page, or maybe you put on a video. So hopefully they have time and they're in the right mindset to watch the video. All of this stuff requires effort on their part to consume our content. And then we can hope and pray that they're in the right mindset and they're in the right space to actually understand what we're trying to tell them or how we're trying to connect with them. Now compare that to an AI bot on your website that will meet them precisely where they're at. So it asks a question, and the AI is able to identify their level of comprehension about your product or service, their level of experience with your product or service, the type of language, what reading level they write at. And it's able to mirror all of that, access all of your company's information, and have a intimate and impactful conversation meeting that client exactly where they're at. Every experience with AI is a unique and intimate experience where it meets you where you're at. That can't happen on a landing page or on a broadcast media.
I want to make sure I'm following. So the metaphor of the Dark Ages reflects the answers outside. I'm looking outside what for what like, and then that's coming from a
Sale,
who.
what's the best sales funnel to get my,
And
I need
there's
more leads, right? How do I get
those.
more leads for my business?
So
That's something you
what
type
one
in.
question, let's say I ask one question, one layer of analysis, one layer of reflection. I pose in search. Now I'm being advertised
Yep.
all these different options, which you're making an argument that there's an assumption underneath them, which is to influence or persuade me based on
Yeah.
my shadow,
If
essentially a
they're good
projection.
copywriters.
I'm going to
Yeah.
project and oh, that's the solution. I've been influenced. And now in the world of the renaissance of AI, you're saying, hey, you have an opportunity to refine your thinking, to ask better questions. However, how you think about AI is the path to be able to get more agency. To me, it seems like this is what I want your first. Am I following the second piece of that is there absent learning how to think about it, there's a missed opportunity because I could just relate to
Well,
AI like I would the
it,
internet, not go
it's
deep
not that.
enough.
Yeah, I mean, none of this is a missed opportunity, and I also want to make a point that none of that is bad or wrong. It just is what it is. It's the best way to communicate, and influence isn't necessarily manipulation. It's telling your story better. It is exhibiting the that you understand your client or your visitor's problem, and that you're identifying with their problem and you're presenting
And
your
let me,
solution
I
as a
want your
solution.
opinion on this, your
Yeah,
feedback on this. If I'm the user in the Renaissance post Dark Ages, I'm relating to AI. The better, the more attention, open, like you said, humility. The more attention I put to seeking the answer, almost like an invisible search, I'm going up in the option that I'm getting back. Because if I'm relating to right, you said the world's information is in there. So I'm getting an answer back. I may not see all the competing answers, but the answer I get is dependent upon my interface with it. So some people will get, everyone's going to get an answer that reflects their degree of not just sophistication or intellect, but how much work they put into it as an
Well, and
agent.
how much they understand what their problem is. And this
Yeah.
is what I'm
So am I
getting. This is
following? I'm not. I
yeah.
want to make sure it's. I'm. This is really high education right now. I think is that each person has the ability to pick the get the highest quality answer. Versus in the past with the Google search, I'm being marketed many answers. Meaning Nikola Tesla, he was the one, right? But he gave it all away. We never knew him until now. We know him because of Elon. Like sometimes the best ideas die in the grave, or like they never go in search. They never get met. They never, there wasn't enough capital behind them to advertise them. You're saying if they're out there, they're in the world, and everyone is looking for answers, somebody's going to find the best answer, the best quality. Or maybe I'm totally missing this.
Well, I think more likely what we're getting at is people are not asking the right questions. So as we're recording this today, where are we? We're March 17th. A story that's going on on the internet right now is that's just blowing up is I think he was a data scientist or a data guy, um, got a rescue dog that was riddled with tumors. And he went to ChatGPT and started asking questions and developed a vaccine that cured this dog. He's
Wow.
not a biologist. He's not a veterinarian. He doesn't know anything about biology, but he knew how to ask the right questions. And people are doing this all the time. They're taking their blood test or your medical exam and putting it into AI and saying, tell me what I need to know
All right,
about.
let me clarify my analogy then. This is a great, thank you for when like the other scenario would be in the dark ages, that guy would have went on the internet and said, "Hey, where can I find this?" And then maybe they got an authority they'd have to pay, and then somebody else is involved when they were just able to figure out themselves. There's more layers to getting an answer, getting it all.
I'll give you a great example. The entire supplement industry. I'm tired. I'm drowsy. Like, I don't have enough energy. Oh, you just need these supplements. Oh, okay. I didn't know I was deficient. I needed these supplements, right? Like that's the thing. But maybe you're tired because of a million other things. And you go into AI and you say, I feel tired all the time. And you start engaging in a conversation and it asks you about your lifestyle and about how do you feel in this situation and that situation. And it never gives you the answers, but it will help you realize that you are asking the wrong questions in the first place.
What happens in a company when leadership starts using AI this way, not as a tool only, but as a mirror, as a partner in that way, a thought partner?
Yeah, yeah. So some great examples of this are they are using AI to amplify the humanity because the human in the loop becomes more important than ever. A lot of people, when they hear AI, they think automation. Um, I just read an interview by the head of technology of Moderna, and he was saying that there are no individual creators or decision makers now. They're all teams of five because there's the human, and then they have a subject matter expert AI, they have a processes and procedures expert AI, they have a market expert AI. And so they're taking their idea and they're running them through all of these amplifiers, all of these things to give them different and new perspectives before they're coming out. So they're not just going off of instinct limited by the time or the deadline. So now, and I'll tell you the single most important thing any business can do right now, and that is data. So the only way AI will ever be effective is if you have structured data. Right now, all of our data and our information lives in all these different places. For small to medium-sized businesses, the founder is almost always the bottleneck. They have all of this specialized knowledge and experience in their head, and they operate instinctively on almost everything. Maybe you have some SOPs for some workflows or processes. Maybe you have an HR manual. But if you start getting all of that data into an AI where it all exists, now you can interface and interact with all of that information. So let's say you have a sales team. Every single salesperson could be as good as the very best salesperson that's ever been on the team because they have access to all of this information. And let's say you transcribe your sales calls. It goes into the company database that has every conversation that's ever happened with any client, and it's gonna return something to you that says, "Hey, based on what the client said, this sounds like this might be the best solution for them. Why don't you have a conversation with them about that?" Right.
Hmm.
So now it's all about knowledge bases and consolidating knowledge in the form of data so that the AI can interact with the data, find the patterns that we as humans miss because we have all of these assumptions, or we're trying to make the sale and we miss the fact that the client told us exactly what their emotional motivation was for being on the call with us, but we missed it because we were so busy trying to describe our product.
Where do you see accountability in this
The
equation at all?
accountability is always with the human. It is AI is an amplifier and an accelerator. So if you put a bad idea into it, it's going to amplify the bad idea. If you put a worst practice in there, it's going to amplify the worst practice. If you, I think that it gives us the ability to focus more on relationships with other people because we don't have to do the paperwork and the data processing and the sales script and all of that stuff. All of that stuff, the mundane um, processes of doing business, when they become automated, now the only question that we're asking is, how do I create a better user experience? Because I'm not running into all of this friction of I don't have time to give this client this extra attention because first of all, I don't know what to give them attention about, and I have all this paperwork that I have to do, and I have to meet these sales quotas, and I have to do all of this other stuff, and whatever the case is. So the accountability, I I think AI is a collaborator and is a collaborator of humanity, not a replacement. It
Why did you, well, what is Mind Genesis OS and why did you create that?
So Mind Genesis is a kind of a second brain for founders, because what I experienced over and over again is we have this Einstein effect. We carry the weight of our past successes. And so here's how I think the world works because I've experienced this many, many times. I think most I think we are born as artists. We are born as creators. Jesus called it seeing the world through the eyes of a child, right? Everything is wonderful and beautiful and amazing and new and exciting. And so a lot of us carry that into business. And if you don't have that vision and that passion for what you're doing, most entrepreneurs will fail because of the burden of the effort to exercise. So, best case scenario, you're successful. So now, instead of being an artist and a creator, you now become an operator. and you're spending all of your time putting out fires. And as you scale, now you introduce more employees. Now we need processes for this. That thing failed. And I think most of our processes and our procedures and our workflows are built defensively based off of trailing indicators, right? This didn't go right. So what do I change now so that that one thing doesn't happen again? But our perception of why that thing happened is super limited. Like we're not taking into account all of the other factors that maybe led up to that point. So, so I think that I have seen a lot of leaders and founders get burnt out operating their business, trying to keep the wheels on, trying to keep the investors happy, trying to keep the employees employed. And so their life feels like they're constantly putting out fires and they're not able to they're operating their business off of trailing indicators and not being informed by intuitive feedback loops. So what I did is I built a process. It's a 2.5 day immersion. I fly them out here to Denver because the most important part of this is disconnecting you from everything that you know around you, your environment, how you think. Um, we lock ourselves into really nice suites in the top of a hotel, and we spend the entire first day doing an interview about your business, about your products, about your services, about your vision, about your goals, about what you want to do in 25 years, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what constraints do you have, regulatory or market constraints. And so we do, which ends up being probably my longest one was 10 hours of interviews. Now, one of the things that AI is really good at is I can talk for 15 minutes and AI can give me 3 sentences that so concisely communicated my idea that I'm just like, holy crap, that's what I was trying to say, but I know I didn't say it that precisely, right? And so that's what we do is we take those transcripts and we extract the narrative arcs and the patterns and the beliefs and the constraints and we map all of that stuff. Then what we do, so that's the first step. The first step is what I call an operational blueprint. It's what you believe to be true about your business and in your marketplace now with all of your burdened by your biases and assumptions and your experience. Then what we do is we do a cognitive blueprint. And the cognitive blueprint is essentially a series of questions that will surface every strengths finder, every Colby, Enneagram, DISC, emergenetics, EQ, IQ tests, and it pulls all of that and creates a cognitive lens on how you see the world and how you process the world around you. And it's completely unbiased and it's completely non-assumptive. So it gets this from the way that you answer a series of questions. So then that becomes a map, that becomes the lens. Then what we do is we take all of your questions and answers about your business and we run a series of deep research reports. So, what deep research is for AI is the equivalent of a PhD level academic research, assembling and compiling objective analysis of whatever topic you give it. So we extract what you believe to be true, then we create an objective data set around what may be true. So I call this potential. This is the world that you may be actually operating in, and then we put all 3 of those under one hood. And so now, anytime you engage or interact with it, it knows how you believe about what you believe, it knows why you believe it, and it has an entire data set around what you might not be thinking of, about maybe what the reality is of the marketplace or the potential of what your marketplace is that you're not thinking of or that you haven't been thinking of. So Really what the exercise is, Jay, is, and this is where AI is most important, is most powerful. When you purposely curate context from which the AI draws from to create the user experience.
What do you mean?
So if I use it as Google and I just type it in, it has no context. But if I'm giving it the context of everything that I believe to be true about my business, how I think and see the world, and everything that exists in my marketplace that I may not be thinking of because I think of everything subjectively and not objectively. So when I curate those three data sets and then use that entire data set as context for my question, it is so much more informed than anything I could possibly come up with myself. So it sounds like it understands my business better than I do. It knows how I think better than I do, and it understands my marketplace better than I do. And when I say better, all I mean is free of assumption or bias, personal bias based on your past experience. So it becomes the single most powerful collaborative brainstorming tool that a founder can use because it allows you to go in there and challenge all of your thoughts and all of your ideas at literally the speed of your ability to communicate your question. You can instantly get a new perspective on it, ask better questions. So this is one of the things that AI is great at is it can ingest massive amounts of data and find patterns in that data. So then the next level is analyzing all of the information in your company, your entire transfer of trust process, everything from lead to lead. So you put in your copy, you put in your CRM workflow, you put in your email communications, you put in your sales scripts, you put in your workflows and your processes all into an AI, and you say, where am I losing trust? Where are the trust gaps? Where is there friction in the customer experience? Where is there disconnect from what I promised them to the experience that my customer has?
Because one of the themes of this conversation, AI is rewards self-awareness higher than raw intelligence, and you, the mind genesis is facilitating
Yeah, so the mind
the
genesis,
process of gathering the context for the
yeah,
for
so the mind
for the
genesis experience is the process is in 2.5 days. We we download and we collect all of the information we need to create the context, which becomes the brain of a personal brainstorming assistant. It ends up being a clone of your highest and best and most creative self that you can communicate with.
is it how an individual, any one of our listeners, how we relate to these tools is what influences what we get from it,
Yes,
impacts what we get from it, and
it
and and that there's value in learning how to do that. That can it's not just about in
it's not an answer.
intelligence. It's a call to a self-understanding.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I'm going to go back to my statement that AI is a mirror. So if you're having a bad experience, all it is it's mirroring back to you your effort and intent that you're bringing to it. If you're just saying, do it for me, give me an answer, show me the shortcut, like you're not going to have a great experience. But if you say, challenge my assumption that this is how I should be approaching this problem, man,
Oh, I have another question. Why? Because I wanted to ask this earlier. Why would an entrepreneur go through that process? How is that valuable to them?
because they feel like that all of the fun is gone from running their business and they just feel burnt out every single day and they feel like all they're doing is solving problems and putting out fires and they feel like they're in reactive mode constantly. They're in fight or flight. They're in fight mode constantly and they just want to flee, right? Like very few successful mid-level entrepreneurs, typically you're the bottleneck. So now imagine that you spend 3 days and you download how you think about your business, how you think, and what business you're actually in, and then give that to your management team. Think of how many fewer questions that will come to you, how many problems that can get solved. So, this is the process of curating knowledge around around knowledge sets so that employees, consumers can access this information on their own terms based on their own way of asking the question.
We have many people that listen that are in the helping professions,
Yep.
consultants,
Yep.
advisors, attorneys, CPAs, strategists. What's your take on how those industries are uh,
There's some
impacted,
there's some of
empowered,
the highest
disempowered?
there's some of the highest impacted businesses out there because um, any generic information you can give has just become the cheapest commodity on the planet. Like anybody can go to AI and ask a health question or a counseling question or a business strategy question, and they can get an answer that probably sounds better than your answer because it relates it to the way that they asked the question. So there's more context because they have it. So here's the
I'm
best.
not laughing at you. I'm laughing because
Well,
someone
no, no,
I
no, no. But here's a really important part of this,
dropped
Jay.
my damn
So
playing around in my wedding ring. I dropped it. Go ahead.
as you losing too much weight, buddy, as though you're looking
I am actually.
belt over there.
Yeah, I've eaten a lot of steak recently.
So here's a quote that I heard it about a year ago when Claude Code came out, and it was a high-end developer, and he said 99% of what I used to do just went to zero value, and 1% of what I do just 1,000x'd.
Wow, I love that. Wow.
So this is what you need to understand is if your client or your consumer can go to AI and get pretty good advice, your ability to offer that advice now has zero value. What has 1,000 times the value is the unique perspective and approach that you have to helping that client understand their problem. So if you are if you are mediocre, you can be replaced by AI. If you truly bring something unique to the table, and how do you identify that? Start recording your calls with your clients. Take those transcripts, put them into AI, and say, create a chat bot for my clients that sounds like me giving them my advice. Here's another thing. If you empower your clients with ideas and tools, now you gave them the ability to have access to you 24/7 so that when they really need you, they're more informed and they ask better questions. Because I'll tell you, almost every information, uh, anybody who offers information, we hate the dumb idea. We hate the dumb questions. And here's the reality. There are not 10,000 questions about what you do. There are 10 questions asked 10,000 ways. So if you can give your clients access to how you would answer that question in a way that sounds like you just increased your value to that client. And not only do they have access to you 24/7, but when they do come to you, they're going to intellectually challenge you. And that's what is exciting about your business. You're in this business because you like solving the hard problems and you like solving that one problem that makes the biggest impact on that business. And how many questions do you have to go through to try to get your client to understand that they're not asking the right questions, right? So There's a huge opportunity, but not if you think nothing is going to change.
What are some of the questions we're not asking? Uh,
Well, almost all of our questions are around symptoms and not causes. Why do I feel this pain? Well, it's because you keep punching the wall. Why are you punching the wall? Well, I'm punching the wall because of this, this, and the other thing. I think most people are trying to solve their immediate pain point, their bleeding neck, and what they're complaining about is the symptoms, and they're not considering the causes or the series of causes that were created over time that led you to a place that you just believe that this is the way things are and so you continue to get this experience. So one of the ways that I like to describe it is a lot of people are putting band-aids on bullet wounds, right? Like they have this bullet hole and they're putting a band-aid on it so that it stops hurting right away, but they don't elevate high enough to realize that the gunman's been pointing in the same direction the entire time. All you had to do is step 3 feet to the right and the bullet wouldn't hit you anymore. But we stand there and we keep getting hit with the same bullet, having the same problem over and over again. And we're like, why do I have this problem? It's because you're thinking about the problem in a way that is confined to delivering the same result over and over again. Like what was Einstein's definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right?
where do social platforms fall into play? Do you see them integrating with some of these AI tools at some juncture?
They already
Or
are. I mean, they already are. So X has Grok built into it, and you can at symbol Grok explain this to me. Meta is already creating AI interactions and AI tools and even avatars that you can have conversations with. I think they're all thinking about it the wrong way, though. I mean, quite frankly, and
what do
um,
you think?
I think that the I think that the lack of depth that happens in social media environments. I haven't been on social media for 3 years now. I don't log into any social media sites. I don't have any of them on my phone. Now I do get AI news, so I'll get tweets. Like I'll go to X and see some things that's related, but I don't interact at all. So sometimes I'll use it for news sources. Um, I think that I think that they're going to struggle. I think it's going to change. I think that it's going to go back to what they originally were, which is a way for people to connect with friends and meet people that have similar interests. I don't know that that's what they are anymore. I think that they're these massive influence machines that are run by influencers trying to um, compile um, mass consensus around their ideas or their perception of who they are and what they are and these kind of things. Like everybody knows that your social media person isn't like your real person, right? Like it's like, oh, who it's like actors. It's like they're so like that's so I think that I think a better question is is how will we as humans want to connect with other humans in the future?
What, how do you see community evolving? Physical community, like
Well, I think we already saw it, and I mean, I do think we saw it after COVID, that more and more people craved personal interaction, and in-person community, and like I think that it amplifies it. AI is an amplifier of everything. So now, um,
hmm.
I think AI amplifies everything, and if it's something bad, it can amplify it. but ultimately, I believe that um, humanity is ultimately good, and that's evidenced by, everybody likes to look and say, oh, there's wars and there's racism and there's all this stuff. But yeah, go back 500 years. Go back 1,000 years. Like, this is a better society. Humanity may not move at the pace that you would like, but ultimately we evolved to be more inclusive and more loving and more caring. Um, and I think ultimately good wins out over people with nefarious ideas and beliefs. So if you decide, Jay, I'm going to build community, I think you can figure out a way to use AI to amplify that energy and that effort that will exponentially improve and increase the experience. So imagine an AI that has the transcript of all of your, what, 5,000 podcasts? And
It's a lot of them.
so if I have an idea, like if I have somebody in my community or you have somebody in your community that's like, hey, I'm dealing with this issue right now, and the AI comes back and says, oh, well, in this episode, Jay talked to this
Yep.
person, and here's what their conversation was. Would you like a link to that
Yeah,
episode?
like right now, I'm because I have a connection with many people. I make as I listen, I make notes of who I should connect each person to, and I could envision and I connect them physically on the phone or Zoom, whatever, and I can envision a world. This would be something I'd be proud of, where it's pre-programmed and it's already making email intros to because I'll just curate to make sure that only the best quality humans are back on the show X amount of times. So I'll be the governor. I'll walk around the village on the
Absolutely.
horse. You know what I'm saying? And then
Oh,
I
yeah,
use it as a
because
connector of the
it
quality
is
people.
your intent and energy to make this an experience that is world class. But you don't have to build the experience anymore. All you have to do is communicate the idea of what the experience looks like, and the AI can build the software, build the connections. Like, you just put the transcripts in there, and it can build the directories and all of the interest points so that if somebody goes in and says, this is who I am, this is what I'm interested in, it can automatically connect those
Oh
with
my
those
God, I just had the
personalities. And-
funniest thought.
yes.
I'm gonna move from the 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 founder of the culture to I'm gonna end up I was a bouncer after high school, like security. I'm gonna become the bouncer again, where I'm just seeing who's invited in and who has to go. I got to break up a fight.
You become the maestro of the orchestra, not the person responsible for playing every individual instrument.
That to me, that's inspiring. Just practical. There's 360, 336 guests, and right now, many of them have been back, and many of them should know one another, and for various reasons, and others maybe never, and for various reasons. And uh,
I think you've got two communities here. I think you're building a guest community because you're only curating relationships with people that you value. So this is your discernment, like your values and your vision. I now know, because I know you, that anybody you would introduce me to would be somebody of high value that I would be interested in. So I see you building something that connects the people that you find interesting. I think there's tremendous value in
hmm.
that. And I think your listening audience who wants to know who you've interviewed and what knowledge they've given on your show. How do I understand their ideas and find out how to evolve those ideas or connect with those people better? So I think you have two different ways that you can connect people using AI that creates a tighter community. Like, you and I were introduced by somebody who was on your show, a mutual friend of ours.
Well, this is Brian View, 845. I know him because of Eddie Prez, been on the show 20 plus times, who I know because of Andrew Berman, who's been on the show 30
Yeah.
something times, who I know because of Christine Beckwith, who's been on the show over 20 times.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
know Beckwith because of John Clyde, and I know John Clyde because of Facebook when I used to go around and speak at different real estate offices. And that's as far back as it's like, like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates kind of thing. They're all, but it's Brian, Eddie, and then Berman, and then Christine, and then John, as far as I know. It's like a tree. Um, if we keep talking, it'll end up being like Old Testament. There's like 40. But like this is what excites me about into like what you're saying. For everyone that's listening, if it isn't clicking, it's because you didn't plug the conversation into a pre-programmed tool, artificial tool, intelligence tool, so you can ask more questions of why this conversation important. I just want because so this is like I'm excited because I is an example. There's many people that I have come to know over time, and I'm thinking, who should know one another? What are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? Who should help their weaknesses? Who could help their strengths? And even the questions that I have based on my experience and my knowledge up to this point and my ignorance uh can be improved with my if what I'm getting from you, my relationship with the tools that you're talking about. And because I might be missing questions, I could have that conversation with the
Well,
tool
then
to
think
help
about
me.
this. You pull together your list and into the AI. So again, I want to make this so that like Jay isn't unique. You have unstructured data in your life. You have transcripts, you have relationships. The basis of those relationships are sometimes just in your brain or in your heart. If you said, I know Eddie Perez, and here's why he's an incredible guy. This is what I admire about him. Here's his strengths. All of that stuff now becomes data that can be used as a data point to create relationships and that you can interact with and make connections and get insights and all kinds of other things. It's all about getting unstructured data and ideas into an environment that you can now engage and interact with it as an external neural network.
One thing I've noticed, I love your, is that when two people have a real relationship, it compresses space-time. So like if someone else,
Yep.
if I introduce you to somebody I've known for 8 years that respects me and I've honored them and they've honored me, there's goodwill. So if I make the introduction, it compresses space-time. A lot of the dating play doesn't have to happen. A lot of
Right.
the surface level, barbecue talk or talk doesn't have to happen. So there's something beautiful about, and then like also one other thing I want your thoughts on this as if we look through the AI lens. If you get together, if they get together, I've noticed from experience, people don't want to disrespect the strangers they met for the first time as a consequence of everyone being tied to that one person that they have a relationship with, that they value, they honor. And like now that person is elevated, but their responsibility is like to protect the village, to protect the village, to be like that lighthouse or the like not the eye of Sauron, if any Lord of the Rings fans, but like we're the all-seeing eye, but like I don't know, a Jedi, or like uh
Well, let me give you
I'm like totally digressing, but I'd love your
no,
insights on this.
let me give you an actual example of somebody in my community that what they did. So this person has a particular role. Um, their AI knows them very, very well. That's one of the things if you're using ChatGPT or Claude, like it learns you the more you use it. So he was going to a conference. So he gave it the address of the conference and he told the AI, go through all of the speakers, look up their profiles on LinkedIn, and let me know which ones I should meet. What are the top ones that have the most connections with me that I should spend my time trying to talk to these people? And it went
Mm,
out, did all the research, came back and said, you guys align on these things. You have alumni, you have shared friends, like their ideas are similar to yours. You could strike up a conversation faster with them. Like, so this is one of the ways that he's using AI based on what you know about me. Like, and that's one of the games that people play. And sometimes ChatGPT will just say that. It'll
mm.
say, based on what you know about me, how should I think about this? Or how should I approach this problem? Try that. Just put that into your ChatGPT or whatever and see what it comes back with and realize that it will never tell you something you don't already know. It will only give you a new perspective of something you've believed in the past.
Scott, you're amazing. I'm so happy we got to introduce this conversation to our audience. I'm already looking forward to next time. Got a couple people I think that you should meet. I'll have to double check with my AI consciousness, my daemon in a Socratic way for all my Socrates fans out there. Please, for those that are listening, how can they get in touch with you? They're interested in your community, part because there's you do that consistently, as well as your OS, Mind Genesis OS. Like, how can people connect with you?
Wow, that's a tough one because all of my business and all my relationships are by referral. So I would say that they can reach out to you and you can connect them with me is one way. You can also Google my name. I run an online community for Perry Marshall, who's a good friend and a collaborator, and he's given me the opportunity to create the space to really develop these ideas and test these ideas with his audience. So I run a monthly call. Actually, it's two calls a month, and then 1 2 hour office hours through Perry Marshall, where we talk about the new tools and invite people on. Like tomorrow, we have somebody that redesigned their entire back office using OpenClaw. So they're going to demonstrate exactly what they did to automate all of their processes and their systems. So you can find me through Perry Marshall. Um, they can reach out to you, and if they want to connect with me, Google my name, and I'll give you my email address, and you can put it in the show notes or
Great.
whatever. But people can reach out to me anytime with any questions.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is amazing. Everyone that's listening, please share this with a friend who's skeptical and one that's open, and go invite them all to talk to AI together. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Jay.